are finally in December 1979. The year is coming to an end, and with it closes the first season of our journey through history. Thank you for being with us, for following step by step this adventure through the halls, the streets, and the screens of Japan in 1979. Your presence and curiosity have, well, really given life to this story. December in Japan. It's the month of illuminations brightening the avenues, isn't it? Of lively streets despite the cold, and families preparing to celebrate the year's end in their own way. On the cultural scene, the year closes with vibrant colors. Kukulikudzakakara, a new shoujo manga of delicate tone, begins in Nakayoshi. Don Dracula by Osamu Tezuka continues its run in Weekly Shonen Champion, while The Unusual Machine Store marks a crossover between manga and toy publishing, released by Tommy. These works really highlight how dynamic and evolving the manga field remained. On television, Mobile Suit Gundam still struggles to reach mass audiences, but something unique is happening. A small group of passionate fans is mobilizing. They're writing letters, demanding its continuation. This support unexpectedly saves the anime from being canceled outright and plants the seeds of what will become one of Japan's greatest cultural legends. Culturally, the year ends in music with the Japan Record Awards, crowning Judy Young's Misura Rate, followed by the Kushaku Uta Gassen. In sports, Nagoya hosted the Asian Basketball Championship, won by China. And nature left its mark with the recent typhoon tip, remembered as one of the most powerful storms ever recorded. So as Japan wraps up 1979 with this vibrant cultural tapestry, from groundbreaking manga to that unexpected fan power-saving Gundam, it truly sets the stage for the revolution quietly brewing behind the glowing screens of a different kind of entertainment, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
It feels like everything was in motion.
What's fascinating here is exactly that connection. How these broader cultural trends, this passion, this willingness for new media, truly mirror the dynamic shifts happening in the burgeoning world of arcade games we're about to explore.
Right.
It was a pivotal moment where entertainment was rapidly evolving and the digital revolution was taking hold almost unnoticed by the mainstream at first.
Okay, let's dive into that revolution then. Our sources really hammer home this idea of Space Invaders as a tidal wave in Japan in '79. Was its impact truly that all-encompassing, or is there maybe a nuance to its dominance that we should understand, more than just a popular game?
Oh, indeed. Space Invaders wasn't just popular, it was a bona fide cultural phenomenon. It fundamentally reshaped the entire arcade landscape.
Reshaped it how, exactly?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, its immense commercial viability put significant pressure on older metal game formats. Those coin-op machines, often dispensing physical tokens or prizes.
Ah, the metal games, right?
It effectively pushed them into decline. This wasn't just about a new game competing, it was a completely disruptive force. It made older forms of arcade entertainment seem instantly outdated, almost overnight.
So not just popular, but literally reshaping urban entertainment landscapes, forcing older formats out. Wow, that's a serious disruptive force for something many might have initially dismissed as just a fleeting novelty.
Exactly.
And I remember hearing about Space Invader houses, these dedicated arcades just for this one game. That sounds kind of wild.
It was wild. The sheer number of these Space Invader houses that popped up, dedicated solely to the game, was astounding. It really speaks to a level of singular obsession. These specialized arcades peaked around August 1979. But, and this is often overlooked, by December, the number of these dedicated Space Invader houses had actually begun to decrease.
Oh, really? Already decreasing by December?
Yes. This signaled a maturation of the market, a move beyond just a single games phenomenon. It suggests the industry was already learning to adapt to its own rapid success and was ready for its next phase.
So the invaders had invaded, peaked, and were already starting their, well, not retreat exactly, but the market was diversifying by year end.
Precisely. It sounds like the industry itself was learning how to adapt to its own rapid success, almost in real time.
Okay. But it wasn't just invaders' clones filling that space, right? This industry was clearly innovating and connecting globally. The AMOA Expo 79, that's the Amusement and Music Operators Association's big trade show in Chicago in November, really highlighted this global reach, didn't it?
It absolutely did.
What specifically stood out to you there about the state of the industry at that point?
Well, what's fascinating is the sheer energy and the international participation. The AMOA Expo saw over 7,100 registrants from 32 countries.
Wow, 32 countries back then.
Yeah, and a significant Japanese presence, about 200 attendees. This demonstrates a truly global, interconnected industry, far beyond what many might imagine for that era.
Definitely.
And while U.S. companies were still heavily focused on pinball innovations, which were cool in their own right,
Sure, pinball was still huge.
it's the Japanese TV game machines that truly dominated the exhibits. That imbalance was telling. Japan was clearly pulling ahead in the video game realm.
That's a huge contrast. So, what specific games from this burgeoning Japanese market were generating all the buzz on the international stage at the Expo? What were people talking about?
Right. Well, among the games creating significant buzz was Atari's Asteroids,
Hmm.
very notable for its unique XY monitor.
The vector graphics
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. The vector lines, not pixels, gave it that distinctive, sharp look. Taito also showcased new titles like Sea Victory, a sea-to-ship war game, and Super Road Champion, a drive game by Model Racing Co.
Okay.
Universal impressed attendees with Cosmic Gorilla and Getaway, and they even surprised Americans with a TV-equipped pinball called Chippy Mouse.
Pinball with a TV. Interesting hybrid.
Yeah, and Dicko's Astro Fighter was also noted for its popularity. It really showed the breadth of Japanese creativity hitting the global scene.
That's the international stage. Sounds like a whirlwind of new ideas. How did this spirit of innovation translate back home in Japan? Were manufacturers just trying to keep up with the invaders' clones, or were they pushing entirely new boundaries themselves?
Oh, back home, the creativity was equally strong. In some cases, maybe even more diverse and experimental. We saw major Japanese manufacturers pushing boundaries with really original concepts.
Like who? What kind of things?
Well, Sega, for instance, had
Yeah.
racing games like Monaco GP. They even had a compact mini version of it.
A mini version, smart.
Yeah, and Car Hunt, which was a multi-phase game, quite advanced. Then Special Duel, it actually combined two games into one table cabinet.
2 games in 1, wow.
And Deep Scan, a unique naval battle game. They were all pushing what was possible with the hardware and game design.
Okay, those sound quite advanced for the time. A multi-phase game, 2 games in 1 table, that's serious ingenuity. What about other companies beyond Sega? Were they keeping pace?
Definitely. Irem was busy with games like Astro Fighter, which we mentioned, but also Mole Hunter, a comical mole hunting game, different theme entirely.
Right, not just space stuff.
And Nison, a skydiving game. Even Nintendo had new releases like Sheriff and Space Launcher.
Okay, Nintendo's in the mix too.
But what's particularly interesting, I think, is the emergence of new concepts from kind of unexpected places like Hyaku Alien from Sanwa Chemical.
Sanwa Chemicals, like the chemical company.
Apparently so. It was an original game developed with ideas from Kyoto University students. It shows this real grassroots innovation bubbling up.
That's fascinating. University students getting involved.
Yeah. And games like Yosaku from Taito Capital Trading, which involved chopping trees and avoiding obstacles, were also gaining popularity. It indicated a diverse and vibrant market well beyond just space shooters.
This incredibly dynamic market with so many new games constantly being churned out, it must have created immense pressure for the manufacturers.
Oh, absolutely.
So this raises an important question. How did they keep up? How did they manage this rapid pace of new releases? It sounds like a logistical nightmare just to develop, produce, and distribute everything.
Precisely. And that rapid innovation actually forced manufacturers to increasingly move toward more modular and flexible systems. It became essential.
Modular. How so?
We see this in discussions around replacement boards and software changes. The ability to quickly adapt an existing cabinet or system, swap out the game board, maybe update the software, and launch a new title became paramount to stay competitive.
Okay. So you didn't need a whole new machine every time.
Not necessarily. This was a crucial evolution for the business model. However, this rapid innovation stood in stark contrast to Japan's tax law at the time.
How did tax law come into it?
Well, the law had a fixed 3-year depreciation period for game machines, but the market was moving so fast.
3 years. Games were probably obsolete in months.
Exactly. It highlighted this fundamental contradiction between the legal frameworks and the accelerated pace of market change. Machines often had a much shorter practical lifespan than their legal depreciation period.
That contradiction you mentioned between a 3-year depreciation and a market moving at breakneck speed that must have created immense financial pressure.
Huge pressure.
It's almost like trying to put a 3-year shelf life on a piece of software today, completely out of step with reality for a booming industry.
Right.
Was there any push to update those tax laws, or did manufacturers just have to, innovate their way around that economic reality?
It was a significant economic challenge they largely had to innovate around. This contradiction wasn't just some bureaucratic hurdle. It forced an incredible agility onto these companies.
Right.
They couldn't rely on long-term assets in the same way. It pushed them to innovate rapidly and embrace modularity, partly out of sheer financial necessity. It effectively accelerated the industry's evolution beyond what even market demand might have dictated alone.
So a pressure cooker situation.
Definitely. But one that arguably led to immense creativity and flexibility.
Okay, so beyond the dazzling screens and the rapid innovation, the sources hint at a fierce industrial and legal war brewing behind those glowing screens. What was that about? Was the success of Space Invaders so overwhelming that it sparked serious conflict?
Well, if we connect this back to the bigger picture, the immense success of Space Invaders inevitably led to a massive problem with similar products, or clones, bootlegs, basically.
Yeah, the clones.
It created a constant battle against piracy. The sources explicitly mention Space Invaders' similar products were numerous from other companies, underscoring this legal and industrial conflict.
It must have been frustrating.
It wasn't just about lost profits. It threatened the legitimacy and the future of the entire nascent industry. If anyone could just copy a hit, where's the incentive to innovate?
So how did the industry try to fight back against this rampant cloning? And how did they try to establish themselves as a legitimate form of entertainment, in the eyes of the public and authorities?
Well, to counter these challenges and promote legitimacy, key industry associations were really stepping up. The All Japan Amusement Association, the JAA, for instance, a crucial industry body representing operators, introduced comprehensive new rules, specifically for metal games initially, but the sentiment applied more broadly.
What kind of rules are we talking about?
They covered everything from prohibiting prize exchange and other gambling-like activities.
Okay, trying to distance themselves from gambling.
Exactly.
Oh.
To restricting entry for those under 18 after 11 p.m. They also mandated counterfeit coin prevention measures, regulated store brightness and operating hours, and even set a minimum of 20 machines per location.
20 machines minimum. Interesting.
Yeah, these rules show a concerted strategic effort to professionalize and legitimize the industry, to move it away from any Wild West connotations it might have had.
And this emerging industry, despite all these challenges, the clones, the regulatory hurdles, it was certainly catching the public eye, wasn't it? It sounds like it was becoming quite the topic of conversation, even on mainstream TV.
Absolutely. Major TV stations like NHK, TBS, NTV, and Fuji TV covered the big AM show, the trade show. They featured popular games like Yosaku, Galaxian, Monaco GP, and Sheriff.
So getting real media attention.
Yes. Now, some of the coverage could be a bit sensationalized, often focusing on post-invader games and their potential get-rich-quick angles for operators.
Money aspect?
But it still marked a significant step in gaining mainstream cultural relevance for the industry. It put arcade games squarely in the public's living room, sparking debate, fascination, and probably some concern too.
Speaking of major players, Sega comes up as undergoing deep restructuring around this time, with Hayao Nakayama taking a more decisive role. What exactly was happening there? Why would they need significant changes when they were already so active?
Well, this highlights a key trend across the whole industry: the need for strong leadership and rapid adaptation in a market changing at dizzying speed.
Things were moving that fast.
They really were. Sega indeed underwent significant restructuring. Hayao Nakayama took a more decisive role in steering the company. Their group, including ESCO Trading, remained very active, aggressively pushing forward with their new game offerings.
Okay.
They even achieved great results at that MOA Expo in Chicago we talked about. It seems it was a critical moment for them to consolidate, focus their strategy, and maybe trim some fat to stay competitive.
It sounds like a competitive but also maybe surprisingly collaborative environment sometimes, especially with that drive for modularity and rapid releases you mentioned.
Yes, there were elements of both.
What about other industry players? Was everyone still just trying to out-innovate each other constantly, or were there strategic alliances forming? Perhaps around intellectual property, given the clone problem.
That's a great point. It wasn't all cutthroat competition. There was also incredibly sophisticated strategic collaboration emerging. Namco, for example, licensed its hugely popular Galaxian.
Galaxian, another massive hit after Invaders.
Exactly. They licensed it to 12 domestic companies, including big names like General, Nihon Denki Saisan, and Nihon Busan.
12 companies, wow.
Yeah. This wasn't just about market reach. It was a sophisticated early example of intellectual property strategy. In a landscape rife with clones, Namco effectively turned potential competitors into licensed distributors.
That's clever.
It ensured their game's dominance, maximized their returns without needing massive manufacturing expansion themselves, and sort of legitimized the licensing model. It showed a maturing understanding of how to manage the market.
That is a powerful move, turning potential rivals into partners to leverage a hit. It really paints a picture of an industry that was both rapidly expanding and trying to find its strategic footing amidst, well, chaos,
It
really.
was definitely chaotic, but organized chaos in some ways.
Mm.
We also saw industry gatherings like those All Japan Amusement Association, JAA, and the Japan Amusement Operators Union, JOU meetings in December. These were crucial forums where industry leaders got together. They discussed which machines were popular, reflected on key events like the AM show, shared concerns, and strategized. It shows a structured industry responding to changes and challenges together.
So building consensus and direction.
Exactly. It was a period of intense growth, yes, but also self-organization. And a clear vision was emerging for professionalizing what would very soon become a global entertainment powerhouse.
What this deep dive ultimately reveals, then, is that 1979 in Japan wasn't just the year Space Invaders reigned supreme, although it certainly did that.
Right, that's the headline.
But it was also the crucible where the modern video game industry, with all its complexities, innovation, competition, strategic alliances, piracy battles, regulatory challenges, really began to forge its identity.
Well said. It laid the groundwork for everything that followed.
If we had to keep one global image of 1979 in the world of video games, it would absolutely be the dominance of Space Invaders, a tidal wave that transformed arcades and accelerated the decline of traditional metal games. At Sega, the year was marked by deep restructuring, with Hayao Nakayama taking a more decisive role, even as ESCO Trading remained active. Competition was organizing itself, with manufacturers moving toward more modular and flexible systems that allowed new titles to be launched quickly. And all the while, the fight against piracy remained a constant battle, reminding everyone that behind the glowing screens, there was also an industrial and legal war. As for us, our journey does not end here. The next deep dive will still focus on 1979, but this time from the perspective of the United States. How the market evolved there, who the leaders were, and what economic and social challenges the American video game industry faced. We'll see each other very soon in the next deep dive, this time in the United States.